Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. And please join me in welcoming Erika Robinson from In the Company of Cards. Thank you
Hi,
for being
see
here.
here.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Erika. I was asked by one of you subscribers. They just love you and apparently subscribed to both our channels and said, you need to have Erika come on. So,
I
yeah. So
appreciate that.
really happy to have you here. Erika does work with cards, and you also have that psychic ability, though, that you don't need the cards, don't you?
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
But I do use the cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
People
I
say
get it.
people say you don't need intuition to read Lenormand. I find that if you really want to read deeply and well, you absolutely want to use your intuition.
Of course.
Yeah.
I've tried it several times. I just can't remember what all the cards. It's the same with tarot. I love tarot, but it's just there's so many combinations when they're near
And
each
you know
other,
what?
and
Have you read my book? You need
I
to
don't
read
think so. No, no.
Language
What is
of
the
Lenormand. And
language of the Mama? Okay.
yes,
All
available
right.
everywhere. And I'll tell you, people have said that it's just eye-opening. A lot of tarotists, for example, who never could
Uh-huh.
grasp Lenormand because it's very different, say that
Yeah.
they can read. It's a very intuitive system. We learn to
Yeah.
read by learning the alphabet and then
Mhm.
stringing those letters together to make words, and then
Right.
stringing together words to make sentences. Lenormand is like that. It's a word language.
It's a word
So,
language.
yes,
Mhm. Yeah.
get my
Yeah.
book, and I bet you will learn to love it.
Well, that's wonderful. I will look into that because I'm always wanting to learn more and more. And I feel that way about the oracles, that those are
Mhm.
also symbol. And because I teach college literature and writing, I everything's a symbol to me. Everything's a symbol, or
You
it's
teach writing, you will love Lenormand.
yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll have to give it a try. I'll
No
give it a
card
try.
acts by itself. The cards are always read in combination, just like you
Yeah.
can have a sentence, a
Mhm.
word, and it doesn't really come alive until you add other words
Other
to.
words to it.
That's
Yeah.
how Lenormand works.
Okay. Well, and I find that that works for me with oracle cards, depending on the decks.
Mhm.
But you become used to working with them, and it just flows out. So yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you there. That's wonderful. So tell the people before we're going to talk about politics and culture today, everybody. So we're going to get to that, but I wanted to talk with because Erika does most of that work on her channel, but I also want you to know a little bit more about her. So did you start be having interest in metaphysical early in your life?
Well, I will say that I went a kind of a more traditional route at first.
Okay.
I was meant to be ordained as an Episcopal priest. I went to divinity school. I have the degree.
Uh-huh.
But this was back in the 80s in Boston.
Hmm.
And so I had a bishop who said, we need you. There's no question but that we need you as a priest in this church. The question is, are we ready for you? Do we want you? Come back in 2 years. And I just said, I will not. No. So I did not go
Wow.
back. And I have always been someone who has felt spirit with me,
Hmm.
God, if you want to call it, with me. I just felt that what I had been shown was too small or too inadequate an expression of it. And
Hmm.
I didn't know anything about cards or anything until I became a widow. And
Oh,
it was
okay.
unexpected. It's years ago now. Um,
Hmm.
and and I went. I had a tarot reading, and I thought, oh my God, this is really amazing. And I also had friends who were psychic, and they were bringing my husband through in these just
Oh,
really amazing. Well, I'll tell you a story. So the
okay.
first
Yeah.
thing that happened was that a friend of mine said, you need to go to this yoga class. Now, my husband had been dead maybe 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't think so. She said, no, just go. So I go to the yoga class, cried the whole way. That was it. I
Uh-huh.
left. That was it. And then she said, so my friend said, so what happened? I said, what do you mean what happened? Nothing. She goes, you weren't open. Go back. I said, what does that even mean? She said, Erika, just go back. So I went back to the class
Uh-huh.
and, spent most of my time in child's pose and, cried.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
noticed that the teacher was going around to certain people and whispering something in their ear. Now, she hadn't done that to me the first
Uh-huh.
class, but this class she did. She said, could you wait after class? So I thought, okay.
Huh.
So I waited till after class. We were alone. And she said, did your husband just pass? And I thought, okay. I said, yes. She said, well, he said he was in the back of the room holding up a glass of wine like he was toasting you. I said, really? I said, what did he look like? Well, she described him and it was exactly,
Okay. Oh,
but I'm
wow.
still thinking,
Sure, you're a little skeptical, sure.
I said, was it red wine or white wine? And she goes, it was white wine. I said, yeah, that's not him. He liked red wine. And I left. I was just annoyed. Like, what are you doing? I go to
Yeah.
the grocery store. Next door to the grocery store is the liquor store. Now, let me back up and say, a couple of weeks before my husband died, I've been reading a book about somebody who taught yoga, and then she had gone to a retreat in Nepal and been in a bus accident. The bus had fallen off the mountain. She broke her back and healed herself with yoga. And to celebrate, she was going to go climb this mountain. So I said, and her friends and family were going to meet her at a certain point, and they were all going to celebrate with all this food and this particular champagne. So I said to my husband, I said, I already have a bad back and I don't like heights. I said, but I would love to know what that champagne is all about. So he said, oh, I'll get you some. So he goes into the store and he was gone for a while and he came back and no, it wasn't champagne, it was wine. And he goes to the store and he comes back and he had wine. I said, oh, he found it? He said, no, they didn't have it. I said, oh, and I forgot all about it. So
Uh-huh.
it's yoga class. The liquor store owner is standing outside and he said, oh, Mrs. Robinson, I'm so sorry for your loss. I said, oh, thank you. He said, well, could you come in here? And I thought, what? Because I've already had no man hitting on me because now I'm a widow. And I thought, oh my God. So I go in and he said, your husband ordered this case of wine for you and it came in, but then he died and it was the wine. So he was holding the wine up to say, Erika, go pick up the wine. So I thought, okay, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then I started to make friends with people who could read tarot. I didn't even try. I just thought, but I was in a car with two of them, and one of them had a deck of cards, and she got ready to pass it back to our friend in the back. And I looked at the deck and I said, what is that? She goes, I don't know. I thought so-and-so would like it. And I grabbed it. And it was Ciro Marchetti's Gilded Reverie letter.
Oh, God, I love that deck. Yeah.
Yeah. I've since met and made friends with Ciro, and he's great.
Oh, really? Oh, wonderful.
The card world is small, yeah. So everybody knows everybody.
Sure.
So I grabbed the deck, and there was a little white book that went with it, but it really didn't say very much. So I looked for resources, and there was only one in English, and it was by a woman named Sylvie Steinbach, who's also become a friend, and it was called The Secret of the Lenormand Oracle. And I read that book cover to cover to cover to cover. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to practice. So I started practicing on my friends, and I taught school for 30 years. And so I would practice on my colleagues. And at first they'd run the other way, but then they realized I knew what I was doing. So they or like if I went to the bathroom or something, they'd say, are you going to be reading at lunch? Can you come? So
that's great.
then I thought, okay, but you know what? These are my colleagues and my friends and my family. They could just be being nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to these forums online. There are card reading forums and offer to do readings. So I would work, teach a full day of school and then come home, make a pot of coffee, and then boot up my computer, and I'd offer 5 readings. So people would ask me things like somebody in India would say, what does he think of her? And the way that I describe it in the book is my ego wants to say, well, what are we talking about? Is this a romantic thing? Is it a boss employee? Is it a father-daughter? Is it a brother-sister? But nobody's asking my ego. They are asking me to read the
The
card.
cards.
So I just trusted the cards, and I would do my, reading. And so then I would offer 5 readings, and then 500 people would want a reading, or 5,000. And then I started to get noticed by the greats of the industry who encouraged me. But the story that I wanted to tell about my husband, the other one, was that one of the spreads in Lenormand, the Big Daddy spread, is called the Grand Tableau, and it's where you use all 36 cards. And it's a spread that tells you a little bit about a lot of things. So I had this spread out on my bed, feeling guilty because, it's the bed that I shared with my husband, this big bed, and now I'm using all of the space, And so I had pulled the Grand Tableau, and the more I looked at it, the more it did not make sense. It just, it was Greek. And I started to get a little teary. Now, I'm deaf in my right ear. I have been since I was an infant.
Oh, okay.
All of a sudden, I hear a voice in my deaf ear. Not only do I hear a voice in my deaf ear, it's my husband. And he's saying, Erika, it's not childbirth. And I thought, wait a minute. I can't hear in that ear, but I'm hearing it. And it's him. Yeah, and what does he know? What does he know about childbirth? I've been there, but what does he know? But then I thought, wait a minute. He said it's not childbirth. So let me think back. What was childbirth? Childbirth is hard work. It's hard work. It's a lot of pushing. It's a lot of effort. And I thought, I did that part. I've learned the definitions of the cards. I've learned the card numbers. I've learned the combinations. I've learned the traditional spreads. Yeah. So he's saying it's not childbirth. What's the opposite of childbirth? What's the opposite of bearing down? It's letting go. And as soon as I said the words to myself, letting go, it was just bizarre. That GT became crystal clear.
I bet.
So he was helping me from, and then I went further. And what I'm known for is what I did was, I said, the GT, that's a great spread, but I'm an American and I'm Black and I want to put my own spin on this. So what I notice is that people, when they want readings, they don't want to know a little bit about a lot of things. They usually have a question or two that they want you to do a deep dive in. Right? That's so how can I do that? And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll do a riff on the 5-card spread, which is a traditional spread. So I pulled 5 cards, and then I pulled 3 clarifiers for each of those 5 cards. Okay. And then it tells a story which has got a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah. And the beginning is amazing because the beginning will tell my sitter something that they already know. And it lets them know that I've tapped into the right person's energy, and it gives them it. Also, I can show them the story. It's laid out so they can see along with me how the story unfolds. And then I draw a 3-card postscript, in case there's anything else to know. And this spread got a lot of attention. And then I got approached by a publisher who asked me if I could write a book. And I was like, oh, sure. So I wrote it. It still is doing amazingly well. I'm really gratified. And then I decided to put the channel up for 2 reasons. One is that I wanted to do something political, and I thought it would be helpful to people to see what energy, was like. And then the other reason is I thought if people can read the book, that's great. But if they can see the cards used in that kind of a context, they will, by osmosis, pick it up. Like a language, pick it up by osmosis. That's the best way to a foreign language. And I am so gratified to see that that's happened. People have learned to love Lenormand. A lot of American, it's known all over the world, but America, not so much.
Not as much. Yeah.
Because of my work, people are flocking to it. And I am just delighted because my whole theory is it is our birthright to have access to our higher self, that part of ourselves that's God. We don't need necessarily to go to someone to do this for us. We can do which is probably why, organized religion really was not for me. That there's certain things that are kept from you. You need this
For a very good
intermediate.
reason. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
and I've just been gratified and thrilled, and the community
That's great.
has grown. And I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
like more than 35 and a half thousand people in a year. And
That's great.
it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, I came to the community in 2020 because I was concerned about him getting into the office again, and many people came at that time.
Mhm.
And since then, the growth has been exponential. I'm seeing
Oh,
so many people that are here and opening their own channels, doing their own thing. It's so wonderful. It really
it's
is.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I just love that story. He not only found the yoga studio with the association of the book you were reading, but it was beside the liquor store that he had
Yeah,
opened. I mean, how
yeah.
that gives me chills. That's
Yes.
amazing.
There were a
Yeah.
lot of little things, like, I would say, "Oh my god," because his death was unexpected. So
Okay,
I was
I was
like,
going to
"Oh
ask
my
you that.
god,
Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
keep the house? How am I supposed to put my daughter through college? What am I gonna
Mhm.
do?" And
Right.
so at one point, I needed to find the deed to the house. Well, I mean, I didn't even know there was such a thing as the deed to the house. So I said to him, "I really need you to help me. I need to find
Yeah.
the deed." And I just sat quietly. I didn't use cards. And then it was like I was a zombie. I went upstairs into a certain room, opened a certain drawer where there
Uh-huh.
were a lot of papers, stuck my hand in, and pulled
And
out
there it is.
to the house. So he has been with me all these years, even as he is about his own business. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I just, that's why I loved having that conversation yesterday with Nancy about, the seance concept, the fact that we can appeal to those who have gone before. If they don't want to
Mhm.
come, that's fine, but you're not bothering them. Like
Yeah,
they can do, they can multitask in a way that we cannot.
that's right. That's
And they
absolutely right.
have, they have a wealth of wisdom that they gleaned from all of the things they did right and all of the things that they did wrong, and they mean us well. And
Uh-huh.
let this be a collaborative experience. This sort of doing this earth thing right. Um, and so he just opened up a whole world of he multiplied my
The world of wonder, really. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I grew up very I in New England, so I was congregational
yep,
Christian, and they aren't judgmental and all that. My dad was Episcopalian, my mother was a Baptist,
mhm,
but they came to the middle. And I spent a lot of time around that, doing those kinds of things. But I never got the bad God concept,
mhm,
and I never got archangels. I never heard
mhm,
of them until maybe 10 years ago. I
mhm,
knew there were probably, I've heard the name Michael and stuff, but I know you could call on them. They come and help you. That we have our own personal angels, that we have our own personal guides, and we have our own personal ancestry that we can call on. And the concept of it makes so much sense. It's just that you don't think about it. And then I heard, whether or not it's true or not, I think it is, that you need to speak it, especially for the archangels. When you want to call them in, it's better to use your voice to do
mhm.
that. I have had so much luck after
Good,
finding out all that. Yeah. Yeah.
good. Well, what I tell people is that the language of the universe is vibrational. So
Hmm.
our words, our thoughts, our actions all help the universe understand. When we say we want something, we often talk out of both sides of our mouths. We'll say
We
things like,
do.
really want, I don't know, love, but that's not going to happen because the last guy I met was da 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 da. We always, and so what
Yeah.
I say is think of the universe as a guy in the lazy boy recliner, smoking a cigar, watching the game. And you call up, and the universe answers the phone. They know who you are. And
Mhm.
they say, "What can I do for you?" and you say, this is what I'd like, but that's not going to happen. The universe just puts the phone back down
Sure.
because no judgment. It's just that you can't push and pull the universe at the same time. What do
Yeah.
you really want?
I
And
love
I
that.
say to people, if you're so tempted to say, this is what I want, and then you're tempted to add, but that's not going to happen, just add this instead. And I already know it's on the way to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
Because the
Yeah,
universe appreciates appreciation, and
absolutely.
it's vibrational, let your walk and your talk and
Mhm.
everything speak
Yeah.
what you want into existence. Because what do I always say too? I say thoughts become things.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
thing
Yeah.
began first, right, as a thought.
As a thought. I
Mhm.
remember telling my students many times, I'd hold a pencil up and I'd say, see this? I said, it started here. That's how it was made. It wasn't made in any other way.
Right.
Somebody had to think about it. Somebody had to then act upon it. So yeah, thoughts are things. They surely are. And I was saying the other day, there's a mantra that I say: believe that you deserve it, and the universe will serve it. You
I
know?
like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And then there's that old smorgasbord idea, where you go to a smorgasbord. They're not going to come over and bring you food. You have to
Right.
get up and get it.
Mhm.
And that you have to get up and get it. Same thing with spiritual, what
That's
you
right.
want in your spiritual or in anything you want in
And
life.
anything that we are the hands, the feet, the eyes, the voice of God.
Right.
So yeah, that is how
That's
God acts in the world.
uh-huh. Well, I really love that your story was so reminiscent of myself working at a bank in about 1981. And I was teaching everybody how to do everything. I was learning new things. I could run that place like a clock.
Mhm.
And my manager who did hiring or recruitment for a higher position, I said, I really am ready. I'm ready to go. I was 25. I said,
Mhm.
I'm ready to move on. And he said, you need to leave the bank, go to another bank and get wisdom from them, and then come back and we'll see. And that sounds just exact. I mean, it was a different situation and
Yeah.
a different type of work, but it was like, why would I want to do that?
Right.
It
Right.
just didn't make any sense to me.
Exactly.
So I agree with you that if it wasn't put in, and that was what was going on with women anyway at
In
that time.
your case, that was women. In my case, it was
Yeah.
absolutely race. And
Okay. Oh,
Boston in that time frame
oh
was.
God, you're from the East Coast as well?
I am from the East Coast. Well, I was born in Chicago, but at 3 years
Okay.
old, my family moved to New York. I was
Uh-huh.
raised in the city, and then lived 30 years in New Jersey. That's where I taught,
Wow.
and now
Yep.
I'm in San Diego. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Because I grew up 40 miles from Boston. That's the only
yeah. No, I
reason
know Boston and the Boston area very, very well. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. But that would have been a race issue. I agree with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
They said I had to meet with a commission, and that every question was racial. Like, how good a priest could you be to me, a white woman? And I thought, well, what? So I mean, I answered all the questions, but I think that it was just the time,
Yeah.
and it was during the busing and all of that, and you know how
Yes,
ugly
I
that
remember. I remember the segregation.
sounds.
Well, they asked me, are you planning on having any more children? And what will you do if they're sick?
Uh-huh.
Stuff like that, that you just want to, at the time, that's what they could ask.
That's right.
So, yeah, really weird.
Right. And now
Well, you
people,
might have gotten the double whammy though, Erica. You might have
yes,
gotten both being a woman and being Black.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
always. Yeah.
Well, you've made a really wonderful choice to do the things you're doing.
I'm
I'm
loving my life. It's
I'm
very
glad.
exciting. I feel like it is it's ministry of a different kind of
Yeah,
type, but it truly is, and it's showing people their own aegis and their own authority in their own lives, and that makes
right.
me really happy.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Well, speaking of culture
Mm.
and what's going on right now in this culture, which is God, I have to say that Margaret Atwood was a visionary, like many others who have,
Mhm.
who have written stories that, like Fahrenheit 451. I just saw there's another one by Sinclair Lewis I ordered today, and it's I can't even remember the name of it, but it was written so long ago that
Mhm.
it's, but it's speaking volumes to what's going on
Yeah.
today. And I just read that there were about 20 men that were veterans in Washington, D.C. that are doing a sit-in, and they're going to be bringing more and more veterans to it against the National Guard being there, or military, or
I'll tell you what, you know what needs to happen? The National Guard needs to ask itself, does this would this would this constitute an illegal order,
all of them
an
are
immoral order? Because if so,
morally.
I don't have to obey it. I mean, I think it's great that
Yeah,
veterans are coming out, absolutely, and all of these retired, high up military people are doing that. But it's going to take the active military saying,
yeah,
I am not going to raise a weapon
that's right.
against people that I joined the National Guard to help and support in times of need. I,
Right.
I, I didn't sign up to attack my neighbor in this way. I,
And carry a firearm with
I
me.
carry a firearm. I just did
Yeah.
a video. I'm going to be putting it up after this,
Okay.
where I looked at Chicago because, of course, I have an interest in that since that's where I was born.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said on my video, I have never seen a governor in my lifetime, anyway, come out and actually say Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker, who of
Yeah,
course is the governor.
it's fabulous.
And yeah, he is. And he just did
Yeah.
a master class in giving a speech just now. And he basically, one of the things, he said many things in that speech, but one of them was that people needed to come out and protest nonviolently. Now, when's the last
Absolutely.
time you've seen a governor say, come out in the street?
Come out and do it. Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
mentioned many, many times on my channel something that you will be familiar with, which is Kent State. I mean, I think that we may be entering a time of martyrs. It won't
Mhm.
necessarily be people who are famous or civil rights leaders or anything, but it will be regular people who just like those people in Kent State, lost their lives. And maybe that's what it will have to take for people to say, okay, that's enough. This guy's gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Another thing that
I'm
I
really proud of him. I'm proud of course, I'm proud of Gavin Newsom for
yeah,
what he's
Kevin Newsom.
doing. And Michelle Wu in Boston
Yes,
is doing the same.
absolutely. Michelle
And
Wu's
where I live here in Seattle, we had our new governor. He's pretty new, Ferguson, and they all stood up in Seattle and said, we're not going to allow this at all. So they should all, I remember in the beginning when they got together sort of to form a
yes.
coalition, and I'm thinking they might be doing that behind the scenes.
But
And we're
again,
just
what
not thinking
will
about
that
it.
look like? Because
I
he
know.
has no boundaries in terms of what he's
Yeah.
willing to do. So really,
Yeah.
the active military, the National Guard need to be the ones who say, um,
Yeah.
I'm not that order does
I'm
not
not going to go do that. Right.
yeah.
They need to, but that's the reason they're pulling them from southern states, because
Yes,
most of them are
yes,
MAGA. Yeah.
yes.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing I looked at today, just quickly, is I really feel a sea change happening in MAGA. It could be as a result of the Epstein thing,
Mhm.
files not
Mhm.
being produced, that the
Yeah.
the interview with Maxwell kind of going sideways,
Yeah.
and his health not being great, which used to be something that just readers would talk about, but now it's entered the zeitgeist. I think everybody is noticing. Oh,
Yeah.
even he said, they're
Yes,
telling
he did.
me, well, I
Yes,
want to
he
go to
did.
heaven. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
There
so
were 2 pictures of him this weekend. His other hand was all bruised up and covered with makeup. And somebody took a video of him walking, and he's got drop foot. And
yes,
and so there, I think it's a multitude of problems.
I think
I
it's a
think,
too. He's
yeah,
got the venous
yeah,
insufficiency. Okay,
yeah,
I think they're pumping him full of IV diuretics, which are not good for your kidneys. I
right,
mean,
right. No,
I
no,
think he's got neurological issues, which explains the drop foot thing.
Yeah.
He's clearly catheterized because that's that thing around his leg.
Yes.
His ankles
Right.
look like the elephant man. So
Yeah, there's a lot.
there's a
There's a
lot.
lot. And he's also got, he can't control his bowels,
You know,
and he has to wear the diapers all the time. And
you see that pair
I
of
always,
pants he had on the golf course where there's like nobody said anything to him. Nobody said to him, "Sir,
yeah,
let's go change your."
well, sir, you need to change your pants. Yes. Yes, it's very helpful.
Pritzker said something else that I thought was good. He said, "By the way, those people in government who have aided and abetted him,
Mhm.
you will have to pay. You will pay a cost."
Oh, they will. Oh,
Yeah.
they will. Every one of them.
Mhm.
Every single one. And yeah, he's talking about how he's going to get into heaven. But today, after Pritzker talked, there was a sound bite where Trump said, well, J.D. Pritzker he's too fat and he needs to go on a diet. And I'm thinking, you're saying that about somebody else? I mean, Trump could stand a diet, for heaven's sake.
Well, Pritzker also talked about his mental capacity being diminished. And Trump's answer to that was, "I'm very smart." Okay, he told him.
And today also he said, many people, as you well know, many people have told me that they would welcome a dictator here.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm
Well,
thinking,
those are all the voices in his head, whom I'm sure
I know they are.
Yeah.
I know they are. They're horrible voices, that's for sure. So China Tank Men, yes, 1989, Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square.
And yes, and I don't know, somebody told me you can't see it very often, the clip. I don't know if China took it down. I don't know, but they said, "Oh, that man was never hit by that tank," and
Yes,
I'm sure he was.
Yes,
He was
I've been
killed.
to China. I've spent some extended time in China, and since we're in Asia, let me put a word in for South Korea, because South Korea showed us how to do it. When that dictator tried to do what he did, everybody in South Korea was in the streets and they deposed that guy. So it can be done. I mean, it can be done.
You're absolutely right. And the same thing happened in Israel a couple of days ago. They had 400,000 people wanting Netanyahu to get.
They've had a lot of people in the streets. They've had young people tearing up their draft cards. You know, I will say about Israel, there was an actress, I forget her name, but she came out early on and was very angry at Black people for not supporting Israel. So I wrote a Substack post about this.
Oh my God.
And I said, back in the 60s, there was a great affinity between Black people and Jewish people. I was a child, but I absolutely remember it very, very well. And then there was a schism. And I know why there was a schism, because I put the pieces together in my head. The schism came from the fact that originally people saw each other as kindred because they had both been oppressed and abused and all of that.
Right.
And that's great. So that there was that link. And then there was a lot of telling of Black people how they should handle things, how they should handle it. And Black people, then we had the assassinations, which opened the door to, as you remember, the Black Power movement in the 1970s, where Black people said, "Thank you, but we'll handle this." Thank you, but no thank you. And the Jewish allies were really affronted. They were angry. And it's created this schism that has actually never been healed. What I said in my Substack is that, given that we are both groups who have known oppression, the difference is that one group learned a very different lesson than the other group. And what Black people, in my opinion, have learned is that it is an impossibility to be simultaneously the oppressed and the oppressor, and that we should always, always, always cast our lot with the oppressed. Apparently,
Absolutely.
Israel
I
has
agree.
learned the opposite lesson. They
Okay.
took that Nazi playbook and they
Uh-huh.
ran with it.
They
And they
did.
have this theory that they are the children of light and that the Gazans are the children of darkness. You can't argue with somebody who thinks that, you
Right.
know? But the fact, and you know what? Okay, do you? But the fact that the United States is complicit. I saw a video on Instagram. This was a soldier. He looked like he was a private, and he
Hmm.
was very upset. He'd been called into a superior's office and told that he was being investigated as an enemy of the state. The reason
Hmm.
was that he had spoken and done a video, I guess, or spoken somehow on social media against Israel's genociding of Gaza. And
Right.
that
I would
enemy of
too.
the
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
Now, I
Hmm.
will say, I think that as a member of the military, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to not, you're
Oh,
not supposed
okay.
to have an
You're not
opinion.
supposed to do it. Okay.
You know, well, I mean, I guess, I don't know. But he's an enemy of the state? What? To speak against genocide?
I know. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
And
It's
this is all about money. This is
I know.
all about money.
Everything is, isn't it? Yeah.
The way that
Yeah.
the schools are now being pressured. You know, I went to
Hmm.
Harvard. Am in a part of a group that is trying to sort of help Harvard keep its spine steeled and not capitulate the way that
Good.
Columbia did.
Good.
So, you know, it's a big
Yeah.
alumni network and student network, and we're doing all we can. I wrote before this group was even formed. I wrote to the president of Harvard, and I said, President Garber, blah blah blah, and I said I have a little YouTube channel. It's not huge, but it's and
Yeah.
talked about the fact that if Harvard falls,
I
how can
know.
university stand? So he wrote me back, "Dear Erika," and then signed it Allen. And I thought, oh, I didn't know we were on a
Your
first name
pals
basis.
now.
It's
That's
a
so
long
nice.
letter
Yeah.
that he's sending to
Yeah.
to uh, to alumni. But the fact of the
Mhm.
matter is, this guy is. There's no quarter of our country that he's not trying to destroy. And this is Project 2025. I
It
don't think
is.
47 cares one way or the other. It's
He
Project.
doesn't care. He wants to be the dictator and
Yeah,
lead everything and have a
yeah.
big ballroom and everything. But really, that's why getting rid of him or him going away, so to speak, isn't going to really change things. We'll have to step up and stand up against
You know
it.
what? In the short term, it won't. I think, though, that the reason he's the figurehead is he's the one with the charisma. I mean, I hate to pay him a compliment, but I will say I've
Right.
always said this: narcissists. It must be a terrible thing to be a narcissist. The
It
one
must be.
gift that their God gives them, though, is
Yeah.
charm.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't have charm, they wouldn't be able to attract
It
people
wouldn't.
and then do their dirt, right? So
Yeah.
he has the ability, he knows how to work a crowd, or he doesn't know anymore. He knew how to work a crowd. He understood the power of television, the
Mhm.
power of the podium, all of that. But nobody coming after him has that on the
No,
Republican side.
that's
I
true.
mean,
That's very true. Yeah.
so
There's
I
nobody in there that has
no,
any kind of anything. Yeah,
no. So
especially little Marco. Marco looks so ridiculously
He
stupid.
looks terrible, the poor
I
thing.
know.
I mean, he looks
Yeah,
sick. He looks
yeah,
sick.
he does. He does.
Uh,
And yeah, wow.
but
Well,
I think that they will have to find their spines once he's gone
yeah,
and shake off this I don't know, this fever dream.
yeah,
I think that will happen,
absolutely.
but it'll take
Yeah.
time.
Well, I have all confidence it's eventually going to be taken care of. I really do. It's just that the suffering that everyone's going through right now it's like we're still stuck like we were in COVID. It's like and now today I found out all COVID shots are going to
I,
be,
I read that too. At first, I thought, okay, well, at least I'm old because they said, young people, young
mostly
kids,
young people. Yeah. Yeah.
nobody can get it. Oh,
Right. Nobody can get it
you ever had COVID?
because
Did you have COVID?
I've had it, but I've had so many shots that it was a mild case.
Because I've never
So
had it.
Oh, you haven't. Okay.
No, I was a novid, as they say. But I guess,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And now there's, hate to be the bearer of bad news, everybody, but somebody has the plague in California.
I heard that.
Yeah. And then
And
there's
that's
these things
what
called
we're
screw
after.
worms. I
Yeah,
mean, these things that are coming out are just crazy.
right.
Yeah.
And you have to really dig to find the information, because JFK,
Yeah.
speaking of screw worm,
Yeah.
of the
He
brain worm, has shut everything down.
shut it down. Yeah. The things that man did. Oh my God. Eating and taking a whale head and eating what did he eat? A bear? I don't
You know
remember,
what?
but
Caroline Kennedy, who never speaks out. I
oh,
think she's a
right.
wonderful public servant. She was in my class at Harvard, so I remember her from
Oh,
when she was
wow.
young.
That's cool.
But
Yeah.
she just puts her head down and does her work. She's been a wonderful ambassador to Ireland and to Japan. But she never makes public statements. She came out and she warned us in
Uh-huh.
no uncertain terms of who he is. But you know what?
Yep.
That's why we voted for him, because he's who he is.
Because he's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Edward, it's in Lake Tahoe that this person, I didn't know where they were from. And there's an awful lot of people that go there for summer and
Yes.
vacation. Yeah. Wow. Yes, Rosie, it is crazy because there are people that are immune compromised or they have other
Yes.
issues. Yeah.
Well,
So,
I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, it might be a little bit, sound a little bit hyperbolic, but I mean, is this our form of genocide?
could
Is this
be. I
get
mean,
rid of
yeah.
people who are older and infirm, because they're the ones that'll go first? Is that the plan?
Well,
Project?
that actually was said in 2020. I remember there were legislators in Texas and a few other of the red states that said, grandparents, you just have to give up your lives so your
I remember
grandchildren.
that.
Remember
Yes,
that? Yeah.
yes, I
That
do.
was like,
Yes,
what?
I do.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was
people,
crazy.
they're not they're well, they
Yeah.
lost the compassion gene did not get passed
They
on.
don't have any, no empathy, no compassion, nothing. As a matter of fact, the homeless people that he wants to eradicate from the cities, he wants them to all go to mental hospitals. Now,
Well,
I'm
they
sure some
don't
of them could
exist, by
use,
the way. They don't
yeah,
exist. Remember when they closed everything? Now, you know
yep,
what he really wants? He might want to call it a mental hospital, but they get to take day trips. And guess where the day trips will be to? The fields, so that they can pick crops.
because we won't have enough people picking them, right?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
going to
Oh
be
my
that.
God.
And it's
Yeah.
also going to be the school to prison pipeline, where young
Yeah.
people are going to be picked up, accused of felonies when really they're misdemeanors. They
Mhm.
won't have money for bail. Next thing you
Yeah.
know, watch, they'll be shipped out to big camps where they'll be picking cotton, etc.
They have reopened some of the Japanese internment camps from the
Yes,
40s. Yeah.
I
I know.
rest my case.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah. There was a wonderful video that I saw today, actually, and it was a man standing up and he was talking to the class. He was a professor or a teacher, and he was talking to his class. And he said, "You in the second row with the blue shirt," or something like that. "What's your name?" And she said her name. And he said, "I don't like you very much, and I need you to leave." And she said, "Well, what did I do?" She was, And he said, "I don't want to talk about it. I'm asking you to leave the room. Just leave. Go. Goodbye." So she gathers her stuff up and she leaves the room. And so the professor says, today we're going to talk about laws and how laws work. And he said, what would you consider the most important thing in law? And everybody gave some kind of an answer. And one guy said justice. And he said, "That's it. That's it." He said, "I want to know why nobody spoke up on her side
Right.
before she was asked to leave." And they all just, and he said, "Because it didn't happen to you, did it?"
Right.
And that's the gist of this whole, and like you had said earlier, if it's not affecting you, it's no big deal.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, is that, people will say, too often for my taste, when is this going to be over? They want me
I
to
know.
look at this. When is this going to be? And, and I mean, if I'm in a good mood, I'm nice about it, but sometimes I'm not in a good mood. And I say, I come from people who were forced from their homelands onto a ship,
Mhm.
chained to somebody else,
Right.
in a hold for God knows how many days, with little food, little water. They get to some strange land, and they probably look behind them, sure that, I don't know, their dad was going to come and get them, that somebody
Sure.
was going to save them.
Somebody was coming for them.
He
Yeah.
did.
Mhm.
And you
Yep.
know what? Hundreds of years have passed.
Yep.
And nobody came. So
Nobody.
what did we do?
That's right.
We made a way out of no way. We got our language taken. We created our own version of English. They took our
Uh-huh.
music from us. We created music that everybody wants to play.
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
We set the standard for style and culture and art and all
Right.
of that. And I said, what if we had said, well, I'm tired of this. When is this going to be over? Like,
Yeah.
suck it up. This is
Yeah.
where we are.
This
And
is where
while
we
we're
are.
waiting for everybody to get information, because this is the problem, is that we cannot succeed unless all of us
Right.
agree to
That's
go.
correct.
Some of us have
Mhm.
to wait for people, the slow ones in the back, to
Yeah.
catch up.
To
And the
catch
slow
up.
ones in the back are just like, I don't get it. I don't want to, this doesn't feel good. This is so
Yeah.
I have like zero patience at this point for that.
Oh, I don't blame you. I was teaching a humanities class, and we were discussing white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of, I think I had a few African Americans, and there, a couple of Latinos and a couple of Asian students, mostly white.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was very open, and I said, this is a tough subject to talk about, but this is where we are, and this is how we want to discuss it, be nice to each other, etc. And so it was a good conversation. And the next day I went to class, one of the girls come up to me and she said, my dad, she was 20. She wasn't really young. And she said, my dad asked me what I learned today or something. And
Yeah.
she said, oh, today I learned about white privilege. Oh, that's BS. That isn't true. And blah, blah, blah. And she said, wait a minute. And I said, did he go to college? Sometimes college opens you up to a bigger, it doesn't mean everybody has to go, but yes, he did. He had a 4-year degree in college. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, what do you think? And she said, I think that what we talked about yesterday was right.
Yeah.
And I told him so. So it's those little things that can accumulate. Doesn't mean the father's going to change his mind,
Right.
but it's a conversation his daughter is having, and it's not one he would have had in his home. So sometimes I just feel like that's the reason I do what I do and have done. And those little milestones or little things that happen can really at least affect some folks. They can think for a minute.
Part of fragility is that there's a cultural agreement, I think, among white people to not discuss things like race.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. It's and then who does then get to experience the discomfort, right?
That's correct.
It's those who are non-white. So I'm sure you know the book by Robin DiAngelo. It's called White Fragility. I think it's a terrific book. I've given it to people, white friends of mine.
Have you? Okay.
They've gotten a little attitude like from the title. Just the title. I said, you didn't even crack the book. It's the title that puts your
interesting. Do you think it's that people feel like they may say the wrong thing? They may do the wrong thing?
Well, that's what they're acculturated to think. But
absolutely. Yeah.
What if you do? How do we learn if we don't try? Yeah. It's not talking about it. Does that forward anything? Does it move us forward? anyway. It doesn't. But you talked about women a minute ago. Think about the acculturation, for example, of white women to be physically small,
Oh
to be,
yeah, be on a diet all the time.
to smile, to
Yes.
be conciliatory, to put the
Mhm.
other first, to be,
Right.
in that kind of Stepford way that
Correct.
that that
Mhm.
is agreed upon. And that's why, for example, I mean, there's a history behind it, but to the degree that there's enmity between Black women and white women, that's part of it. Because
Yes.
we are not acculturated to be that way. And therefore, we're loud, we're angry, we're this, we're that. We're just ourselves, is what it
Yeah.
is, you
Yeah.
know? So
I yeah,
it's
I
just
get it.
very interesting. And what I try to do on my channel for sure is have these kinds of conversations,
That's
just
great.
to
We need
model
them.
for people.
Yeah.
I don't, do you know Lena from Tarot Down Under? She's
Yeah.
Australian.
Yeah, I know who she is. Yep. Mhm.
And I get together every month. She comes on my channel and we
She's
talk.
sociology professor, right?
She's a
Yeah.
sociology
Yeah.
professor. So we
Mhm.
talk every month, and we invariably end up talking about race. And if nothing else, it's a great way for people to just observe how
Yes.
people who are different can
Yeah.
talk about hard things and live to tell the tale. You
Right.
know,
Absolutely. I had two situations. The first situation was back in the 80s, and I was a mortgage loan officer, and I was going to real estate agents, and I found this really beautiful real estate agent, lovely lady, African American, and she was Miss Virginia at one point. And she told me something that I was not aware of, and maybe others here aren't. She was very light skinned, like yourself, and
yeah.
she said there is um, a problem between light and dark skinned blacks at times, that they don't accept each other. In other words, it's like you're too light or you're too
Well,
dark.
here's the thing. Uh,
Hmm.
I, if the default, according to white people, is whiteness,
Uh-huh.
that's the
Yeah.
standard that everything is
Yeah. That's
just
true. That's
then
true. I never thought of that.
proximity, right? Then proximity to whiteness gives
Hmm.
you something called white. It gives you privilege, light
Sure.
privilege, light skin
Sure.
privilege.
Right.
So the thing about light skin privilege is that you can do different things with it. Do you remember the book, The Bluest Eye?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So in that book, I mean, it's very sad. A little girl, and she essentially goes mad because she thinks she has blue eyes. She thinks that if she just, Black girl, had blue
Mhm.
eyes, all her
Everything
problems.
would be all right. Yeah.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
girl in the book named Piccola Breedlove, and she's light skinned. And everything about her seems just so charming. Even the fact that she's got a tooth that's twisted, it's just like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, oh my God, that's so because it's on her. She has
Right.
long hair, she wears white knee socks, etc. And I'll tell you something. My mother said something to me that I thought at the time was just an awful thing to say. But I get where she was coming from, and I have taken it to heart my whole life. She said, because my mother was darker than I
Mhm.
by
Mhm.
a lot, she said, I want you to know the pain of being Black. And I thought at the time, that's so
Yeah.
weak. Why wouldn't you
That's,
want me to know that? Now, she did teach me all the other wonderful parts about
sure.
being,
Sure.
but she wanted me specifically to know the pain of being Black. Now, what she meant, now that I'm 69 years old, and I've actually known
Mhm.
this for a considerable amount of my life and tried to live my life this way, is that you have light privilege. What are you going to do with it? Are
Mhm.
you going to sort of revel in that proximity to whiteness and be what they call one of the good ones, one of
Uh-huh.
the nice ones? Or are you going to use your privilege in every moment for the benefit of your darker brothers and sisters? Now,
Wow.
she didn't say all that, but that's what
Right.
she meant.
That's what she
And
meant.
that's
Yeah.
what, my hair, I have never straightened my hair in my life. I've either had an afro, or I've had my hair buzzed off, or I've worn locks, because
Mhm.
physically my hair is probably the blackest thing about me. And I've done it to make the case. Don't get it confused, because I've had people be confused. They'll say things like, literally what I just said, they'll say, oh, I don't mean you. I mean those other, you know, and I have to
There's
stop.
that worry again, that holding back again. Yeah.
Even
Mm.
on my channel. Now, I have wonderful people on my channel, and I have a thing that I do. I tell people periodically, I I want to have a community that is respectful and
Hmm. Hmm.
generous and kind. So if you prove that you are not that, I do what Disney's what was that movie? Snow White, Cinderella, one of them. With the fairy godmother,
Uh-huh.
bibbity bobbity boo with her wand. I said, I don't need a wand. I can do bibbity bobbity boo. There's a button I can push. And
There
here
is a button.
is the
Yeah.
beauty of the button. The beauty of
Yeah.
the button is that you think you're still watching me, because you are. And you still see everything I say. You see the comments that people make. But guess what? You can't comment.
Right.
Nobody sees what you do. So you are howling into the void.
Right.
And so some of the people that I have cast out into the void with bibbity bobbity boo will say things to me like this. I thought this was about cards. You should tell your audience this is a Black channel.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Oh, God.
Yes, yes. And I mean, I am Black, so I guess by
Yeah.
definition, it's a Black channel. There you go. but any reference to race, it's that fragility. It's like, I don't want to talk about that. I just want to pretend everything is the default.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fragility. That is, but
Sure.
that's fragility. I don't even like that word, by the way, fragility.
Hmm.
Think about what's fragile: an egg, a
Hmm.
baby, a
Yeah.
kitten, a puppy, a flower.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
things that are fragile need to be handled with care. No,
Right.
I call it it's weaponized fragility.
It
Is
is
what,
weaponized.
yeah.
Right. That's a perfect way of looking at it. Um, I had a student in another class, and I found out another lesson. And it was good that I found it out because I didn't know it.
Mm.
I grew up in this town in New Hampshire. We had one or two Black students in the
I know
whole
New
school.
Hampshire. I worked at St. Paul's for 2 years. So
Oh, then I went to Pinkerton
oh, yeah,
Academy.
yeah. Okay.
So there's, and I didn't think anything of the fact that they were white, black, green, whatever they were. As a matter of fact, I remember somebody asking one of them something about being colored. And at that time, that's what people said. And he said, what color am I? I mean, he was a jokester. He was wonderful. But so I'm talking in my reading class, and we read Malcolm X's autobiography, which is, I recommend to anybody to read.
I've taught that many times, that book.
Isn't
Yes.
it great? Yes.
Yeah.
And what he learned in jail,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I said something to her, and I said, yeah, I don't see color. I just don't see color. Well, she said, then you don't see me.
That's right.
And I said,
right.
well, no, what I meant was, she said,
Yeah.
no, you
No.
can't say that anymore. You
Right.
can't. And
Well,
I didn't know that.
It's not that you can't say it. It's just that you have to know what you're saying when you say it. Because
Yeah.
to not see color is literally what she said. It means that you don't see who I am, what my experience is in the world.
Correct.
It's in other words, it's part of fragility. In other words, if I say I don't see color, you're sort of like default white. I'm conferring that status on you because your color won't bother me. It doesn't get in the way between us. It doesn't bother me. Well, maybe it needs to be looked at why not seeing it is the standard or the desired state.
Yeah.
To see it and appreciate it and move with it and embrace it and learn from, that should be the standard that we try to go for.
It should absolutely be. And I tell you, sometimes when I have these conversations, the learning that I receive from it is amazing, because my students, they've been in all kinds of classrooms because they're young people.
Right.
But for me, back in 73, graduating from high school and, living in that world, and that doesn't mean I haven't lived with other worlds. I have a African-American grandson, but remember the time when John Lewis was speaking in Congress or something, and Mark Meadows said something to him, I have a black friend, don't I, John? And it's like, yes, I have that one token black friend. Right. And so now I understand all African-American people, which is absolutely crazy. Right. Yeah. 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 It is like denying your cultural silver. You're absolutely right. But live and learn. And that's why I'm passing it along.
No, I think kind it's
of an embarrassing situation.
It's great that you talk about it, because one of the things that I know that I find frustrating, and other Black people do as well, it's what I have labeled cultivated cluelessness. In other words, you ask a question, not you, but someone will ask a question. You answer the question. And so then you think, oh, this is great. Now they understand, they get it. But then they do the same thing all over again. And you say, it's performative listening. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's why when the election happened, there were all those memes about Black women drinking their water and minding their business, because how many times can we say the same thing? And
absolutely. Well, and we all know she won.
She won, but I think we have to be very careful that we not use that as a crutch or an excuse, because even though she won, all I know is 94% of Black women voted for her. That's all I know. 94%. So it was a little more than Musk's doing whatever he did with Starlink, and it was more than that. There were people who said they were going to go one way and went another way. Okay,
because nobody can check, right? I mean, you're private in that booth, and
that's right. You're private.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Well, that's fascinating. Well, Erika, I had a fantastic time with you today.
This was great. We didn't even pull cards.
Yeah, we didn't, and it's okay, because I love going with the flow, and I've had some great comments here from the community watching. Thank you all for being here, community, and please go over and like and subscribe to Erika's channel, In the Company of Cards, and her Substack. If you do Substack, that's fabulous.
It's also called In the Company of Cards. Well, I'll have to have you on my channel if you'd like to come.
Well, I'd love to come on. Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. All right. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.